When I moved here to this place, I knew it as the Shuswap, southern British Columbia. The reality is that this webisode 17 of CFX, The Connection of Things, streams live from Secwepemcúl'ecw, which is the unceded traditional territory of the Secwepemc Nation in southern British Columbia, Canada. Now, when I moved here, I'd never even heard the word Secwepemcúl'ecw, let alone know how to pronounce it. I certainly also didn't understand what it was, and I didn't understand what it meant unceded. I was ignorant and uninformed. And I don't mean by that I was like deliberately, ignoring the facts and just trying to be like a jerk. I don't mean that. What I mean is I was unaware. I didn't really understand or wasn't aware of the true history of the land in the place that I had just moved to, or the places that I had moved from, quite frankly. Prince George, Victoria, Princeton, Vavenby, Edmonton, Rocky Mountain House, Kingston, Ontario, Winnipeg, Manitoba. I knew the colonial history view, knew that pretty well. I had been taught how the explorers discovered these places, as if they were unoccupied, and then how they were given to the settlers who came here from other lands. I'm a third generation Canadian, son to John and Carol. And my ancestors were settlers that came here from Scotland and the United States. And I was certainly taught, an understanding of how my ancestors came to this land. And I was also taught, especially by my mom, about the interaction of the arrival of Europeans and Indigenous people in North America. She taught me quite a bit about that, just on her own time. But in school, we learned about, the Hudson Bay Company and the great railways. Honestly, though, as I've realized now later in my life, we were only taught part of the story. Now, don't get me wrong. European influence in North America has brought many, many benefits. For sure. There's no doubt about it. But it's also created many deep costs and injustices. Perhaps most importantly, in my opinion, largely ignoring the people, the knowledge, the culture of the people that occupied this land since time immemorial. Really, what that has resulted in us is missing out on a great opportunity for prosperity while caring for the earth. Sort of that notion of sustainability really is how I think of it. And we missed out on a lot of those opportunities, but it's not too late. My desire to learn the truth, combined with the generosity of many Indigenous people who have shared with me the teachings of my own elders, my collaborators, my mentors. Now I seek to shed light on how to engage our powers of personal experience, stories, sharing and respecting one another, fostering relationships with the non-human creatures that we share this planet with, engaging the positive energy of the universe, applying the measurement of Western science methods, and working together for a common outcome. And through this work, wow, I meet a lot of people. But I have to say that the most inspiring people that I meet are youth. Youth armed with a better understanding of our past than I had, and just loaded with ideas, innovation, and optimism for the future. So I'm working to empower youth with all that I can. I want them to have the very best chance to carry us forward in a good way. It's why I co-founded BC Tomorrow, to help students and teachers explore their watersheds and sustainability. It's why I love the fact that one of the 3 key priorities of my Rotary Club is youth. And it's why I teach and mentor young people and try to give them the best that I have so they can take it and use it. My guest this week is Sophie Collins. Sophie is a remarkable young woman that I met last year through a teaching and mentoring opportunity that I was offered by Secwepemc. Sophie's also a student at Thompson Rivers University. And get this, she is earning her Bachelor of Science with a major in physics and a minor in mathematics. You want to crunch some data? Sophie's your gal. Sophie's also TMUC Transformation Assistant at Secwepemc. Like Sophie, welcome to the show.
Like everyone. Thank you for welcoming me, Barry.
If you haven't already done this, kick that subscribe button right between the eyes. Help us grow this movement. Hi, Sarika. She's over there in comments and reactions. Sarika's our assistant producer. Oh, this happens every time. Every time I say Sarika, Siri comes up on my screen. She's jealous. Sophie, Bourbon Blues on the street, loose and complete. Let's get this show underway.
Sounds great.
Emojis. We need emojis. Okay, you're probably too young, but they used to do that all the time on the Muppets. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm a little too young.
So see, those old trends come back and now all of a sudden they're new, right? How cool is that?
Yeah, for sure.
Sophie, can you share with everybody, let's share some things about yourself that we wouldn't necessarily know if we read your, I don't know, your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah. So I'm from my mom, or on my mom's side, I'm from Eskedum, which is Alkali Lake. And then on my dad's side, I'm from the Woodland Métis tribe. So it's pretty cool having 2 different backgrounds come together. And then being Indigenous, I love to be out on the land and go on snowshoes with my dog in the winter and lots of hikes with him in the summer. That's probably one of the most things I'm passionate about is my dog. His name's Snoop and he's only a year old, so he's pretty cute still, but lots of high energy. And then personally in the downtime I have, my mom would call me a little old lady because I picked up embroidery during quarantine and I have done a bunch of projects on it, so I'm sure everyone would think I'm an old lady for sure.
I never would have guessed that, but so do you put on your old lady glasses like this when you do
No, but I do have glasses too, just in case I need
it? You know why? You know why that happens? Like embroidery and stuff. Like you end up having to wear these because it's such fine work. Like you just wear out your eyeballs. I'm
Yeah.
sure of it. That's what happens. That's my excuse. I used to be an embroidery master. Did you know that?
Really?
No, I didn't. No. Just trying to find an excuse for being old and having to wear glasses. Check this out. Sophie gave me this shirt last year in person, despite the COVID craziness, as part of the summer speaker series that we were involved in. We got to spend some time out on the land, socially distanced. It was awesome, and I got this shirt, and we had a whole media crew there with us. That was lots of fun. And that's how sort of we got into this. And we were talking about cumulative effects. And, I'm just thinking, I'm wondering, I'm sure that was not on one of your lists of, this would be really cool, cumulative effects. How did you get interested in it?
Well, I still work at Secwepemc, but in the summer I started as an intern there. So I was part of the hashtag Team Scoopkin intern program. And
Woo!
I started learning about, Yeah, scooping up, that's for sure. Um, so then when I was there, my boss kind of tagged me to the Tmeek transformation team, and Tmeek basically means land resources and everything on the earth.
Oh,
So being part of that team is a little more science, and I was really excited for that. So in the summer, when Sunny tagged me to be with Barry and learn about cumulative effects, I was really interested and just wanted to learn more about it. So then we were actually offered a summer project for each of the interns, and my project was to do with cumulative effects. And then Barry had asked me what my passions are, and I decided to go with moose and how their food browse is going to change over the next 50 years because
yeah.
it's always been something in my family. My grandpa always provided moose for us when we were little, and then after he passed, my uncle started taking it over, and we still have a, or if my uncle can get a moose, we still have moose every winter. So we just hope that he can always get one in the fall, and that'll do us for the winter. It's really
Nice.
enriching to be that connected.
Is there a moose emoji?
I don't know. I know there's a deer emoji. We use it for Starbucks at work sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. That would be a great like Canadianism, don't you think? Um,
Yes, it would.
so, okay, so you got this opportunity because you were involved in the Comita movement and organization. You had a bit of a unique opportunity given your background and your family and where you were and your interest in school. Like, but how do you have some ideas about how we can get other people, especially young people, interested in cumulative effects and like knowing what it is and maybe working on it?
I think just because I didn't even know what it was when I started at QS and just learning about it, it's
Yeah,
been really eye-opening to learn and just understand that there's more to it than just looking and seeing, like we talked a couple of weeks ago about how much minerals and everything are used to build a smartphone. So like that's
yeah,
pretty cool to think about sustainability. But I, in my mind, I kind of categorize that as I don't think about that every day, where I am out on the land every day walking my dog and then I can see different things. So
mm,
having that connection with the land and just more kids right now are being into sustainability. So understanding that this generation is, I wouldn't say a lot more invested, but they're invested in sustaining everything. And then that ties right into connecting everything because we need to understand why everything behaves the way it does. So I guess for young people being on social media, I notice that's a big thing with COVID right now too, is a lot of my friends don't watch the news every night. I only watch it because my dad does. But having
I stopped watching
having
it.
that I do most nights because I just get sick of the same thing. But but having the living part on social media and being able to see that there's more and having connection of things on YouTube, then kids can easily watch that and kids or youth can easily watch that and learn something rather than just watching TikToks all day or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're sitting over there watching this live on YouTube, which is social media, we're live. We're live for a reason so we can connect with you out there. So it's not just Sophie and I having a chit chat. We want you involved. So um, throw us an emoji, send us a question, give Sophie a really tough question that we'll ask her. And if you happen to see this when it isn't live because you were working or doing something different, put your comment down below. And if you got a question, Sophie or I will get back to you. And I think that that's really critical. What you're saying is that, yeah, I think young people are very aware that there are limits to this notion of continuing growth on a finite planet, and your your generation is very interested in making sure that there's something there and that you have at least as many options as I had if not more. And
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. So I think that that's why it's really important for young people. And I also think with social media, the game has changed, and the opportunity to influence and use your voice is really strong. And it's been my experience that young people like get this connection stuff right away. Like they understand that things are connected.
Yeah, I totally agree. And even talking with some of my cousins over the summer about the work I was doing, or just my peers in general, they were all really interested in it just because it is something you don't hear of every day or you might not think of. So it's really rewarding to hear that other people are also interested in how everything is connected.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think, well, I've talked about this many times, but I think this holistic understanding that Indigenous traditional knowledge brings holds many of the answers to finding out how to use those connections in a very positive way for everyone. We could do
Oh, I
better to be learning
completely
from
agree.
that, right?
Yes.
Um, Sophie, you're a physicist. Like, so that like when I say that, even when I say, I mean, I'm a science guy, but even when I say that, I'm like, wow, the physics people, they're usually pretty out there, pretty hardcore. But really, physics is just one discipline, and it's actually one of the most powerful that we have because it's really understanding the movements of energy and systems. I'm wondering if you could, just share a few things about physics that help us understand this stuff, sort of for people that aren't in it at your level.
Yeah. So when I think of physics, if you if I take a step back, I think about how it is the study of all different kinds of energy, and it's all different kinds of energy, but then everything has its own energy too.
Mm.
It it's kind of difficult to wrap your head around, but you can see all these different energies. Like potential energy is the easiest one to see. So right now we're not moving, we don't have any. But if we were to stand on something, then we were to jump off of it, then we would have some potential energy. So that would be an example. But with quantum physics specifically, you can start to realize that everything is connected. Lots of
Mm.
physicists or quantum physicists do these thought experiments where they can't actually do the experiment, but they look and they think of one particle over here that is connected to a particle over where you are buried, even though we're an hour and a half driving distance apart.
Yeah.
But we know that the particle that I have can easily affect your particle. If we measure something that my particle has, that's something that we can't measure on yours because we can only know one of them, which is just really different to wrap your head around
Wow.
because you think everything's known, but yeah.
Yeah, it's so yeah, I've been exploring quantum energy, meditation, a few different ways of connecting to those unseen energies. I think that belief and understanding, and these are things that they're because they're not tangible. Like it's not like a block of wood that I can put my hands on. It may be more difficult to think about, but honestly, like we're so comfortable with energy that we can't see, like electricity, X-rays, the internet. Like it's the internet is not that box behind me. It's a movement of electrons and things that are in a certain way in waves and everything. So it's all
Yeah.
around us, but I think probably most of the energy is unseen, right? Like we have eyeballs, but I mean, they can only see a tiny bit of it.
Yeah. And I know we're going to talk about this later too, but
Hmm.
physicists at the beginning, they couldn't figure out if light was a wave or a particle, and turns out it's both. But
Yeah.
they originally thought, because sound is a wave and we know it travels through air, but physicists originally thought that light travels through what they called ether, and
Yeah.
it's like air, but it's got nothing, no mass or anything. And I thought that's how it travels, but turns out they're wrong. And it was just a wild thought that they pictured air or light energy moving through.
Yeah. When I took grade 12 physics, I was taught. about the ether.
Yeah.
And it was just like that. It's like a fluid that's all around us that
Yeah.
we not necessarily can understand or see or feel. But uh, there's this article by Chad Orzel on Forbes magazine that you and I were talking about, and Chad talked about 6 things that everybody should know about physics. Maybe we can just walk through those quickly and briefly discuss them. And I will share the article in the show notes for people who want to see it. But just, thinking of it from a cumulative effects systems perspective, it just makes so much sense. So the first thing he said is just what you just said. Everything is made of waves and particles. So they're bits and they move. And it reminds me of, I think it was 2 shows ago, my Forest of Whispering Speakers highlight was Hills of Morning by Bruce Cockburn. And one of the lines was there, I want to be a particle of your light and just sort of be a part of your energy, right?
Yeah.
Cool how you described that. Physics, quantum physics particular, but all physics, I guess, probably at its root is discrete. So, like the word quantum means how much, right? So we're always measuring like how much of stuff there is, right?
Oh, completely true. We try and measure everything because we don't know how to assess. If we can't measure it, we don't know how to assess it. So
Right.
how else? It's easier to measure it.
And we come up with these like crazy names like Higgs boson, whatever's.
Yeah.
Because we have we don't have anything to explain it. But like when you're on the land with an elder teaches you a lesson, that energy has moved through time and through generations and now has landed in your mind. And so that's what you were sort of thinking about thoughts. Okay?
Cat got my
Quantum
phone.
physics is probabilistic. So when we were doing that work that working on that research that you were doing, looking at moose browse, one of the things that really influences that is wildfire, because it changes the ecosystem, and that's really important if you're a moose about whether your food is there or not. And that gets back to probability, and I remember this from university stats. 141 was my course, and probability was a really interesting thing, and now we use it a lot. So like when we do modeling and forecasting of fires, we can't say that on Wednesday at 3 p.m. a fire is going to start exactly at this coordinate and it will burn for 17 days and occupy this space. But we can say within a probabilistic range, we know the frequency, distribution, size of fires.
Yeah, for sure. And like thinking about it, that's a whole big thing of quantum physics is just measuring the probabilities because we don't know that the particle I have is where I have it. It might be closer to you and
Ah,
closer to your particle. We can only say the probability of me having a particle and you having a particle is so much or so little, which just crazy to wrap your head around for sure.
and it like one of the things we have to do is remove ourselves from the carbon of this body, right? Like which is just like
Mm-hmm.
a container that we're sort of occupying, but it doesn't mean that that's the only place we are.
Yeah.
Physics is non-local, so really, I'll let you talk about this one a little bit more, but I think it's really about systems, understanding systems.
Yeah. I definitely understanding systems because technically you could say my particle is in a separate system from yours, but we know that's not true. And then going back to the thought experiment that I talked about or how thought experiments work, we know that we can think of the universe as one big system, but within that system, everything affects each other too. So we
Yeah.
can think about cumulative effects like that and
Yeah.
think that, like, even thinking, say we put Canada in one system and the States in another system, we know that's not true because we are so close to Washington State, for example. Um, like having the wildfire smoke from California drift up to
Yeah.
Kamloops last year, that was common. So we know that everything is going to affect each other, or global warming is another example. We can see having
Yeah.
everything melting definitely affects everything.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one because the 49th parallel doesn't mean anything to an airshed.
No, yeah,
That's a great one, and well, I mean, COVID has really opened a lot of our minds to this connectedness and the ability of things to move so easily around the planet. And it's interesting, like what you were just saying there, like that was they're systems, but they're small particles, and so that was the fifth point that Chad made was that physics is mostly about very small stuff. And so you're measuring these really, really small things, but we're observing the cumulative effect of all of their interactions. So, like, I love that because when you think about ecosystems or you think about all the people buying stuff in an economy, it's the aggregate that we look at, right? Those are the
hmm
outcomes that matter more than the one individual transaction for $5.
yeah, and yeah, completely true. And it's just, yeah, because my particle can affect your particle. There's nothing saying they aren't in the same system, which
Yeah.
is, yeah, it's crazy to think about for sure.
Um, Physics is not magic, right?
No, it's chat. Well, there's a quote. I can't remember who it's by right now, but we know quantum physics describes a lot of everything, but we don't completely understand how it works either. So the quote is, if you think you understand quantum physics, start again, because we know we don't understand it all. And
Yeah.
we can we can use math and everything to try and understand it because after all physics is basically applied math, but we can't we can try and predict things, but that's the best we can do. We can't do more than that. So it is definitely weird to think about that and think about how, like quantum tunneling, for example. Oh, I froze, I think. Quantum
Oh, you're still
tunneling,
going good on
like,
my end.
okay, um, quantum tunneling, like, you can assume that it happens. We think that it happens, but we can't confirm that it happens. So it's, it's, quantum physics is just a weird concept in general. So it's definitely
Weird
not
and
magic, but
definitely not magic, grounded in math. But you're pointing out some. I think the limitations are not in the mechanics of the system. It's our inability to maybe describe them. Because I think about like the work that we did last summer, where you're using a forecasting model, which is it's a computer algorithm that's gathering up a whole bunch of data and it's suggesting under a certain set of assumptions with a certain starting condition and all of these influences. This is what happens. This is what it looks like if we understand all of those connections. But the reality is that models are abstractions of reality. They're never perfect. They're always wrong to some point.
yeah,
But they're not crystal balls, but they are useful because they help us explore a solution space of probability.
yeah, exactly. It all of those models just, and it does help us understand everything because we don't know everything, even though we might think we do. But using the cumulative effects model that we used last summer with the moose browse, that was crazy to think about just because it was all probabilistic. It
Yeah.
wasn't saying this is going to happen because like you mentioned earlier, we had a wildfire happen in the area, but we don't know if that wildfire is actually going to happen, or if it's one wildfire, if it's none, or if it's a bunch of different ones, or a big severe one like
Mm.
Elephant Hill. It could be something like that. So,
And I guess, like, I'm going to move us into the Forest of Whispering Speakers here, but it strikes me that this is exactly why we need two-eyed seeing. This is exactly why Western contemporary measuring approaches are inadequate to really give us the full story. Just like I was only hearing the colonial view of the history of this
mm-hmm.
country, I wasn't getting the full picture. So when we entertain those other energies that come in the form of oral knowledge that has been gathered over 12,000 years and shifted from generation to generation by repeated observation, I think that helps us fill in some of the gaps where Western science is poor at best.
I completely agree. Sunny Laborde at QS always talks about walking on two legs and using our Western understanding to aid in the uh, Indigenous understanding, and using both legs to walk and understand what we can do to do better and continue doing good work. So
Yeah.
using that with ALCs and cumulative effects over the summer, it was it really aided the understanding, because I did get to go out and talk to my uncle and ask him, like, what do you see happening? Where do you see the moves going?
Yeah.
Or talking to the different elders and asking them what they see out there, like how things were, what they can remember, and just using both of those, and then using the software tools that we had to understand what is going to happen, because that's our best prediction. We can only think of the probability of what's going to happen. We can't determine it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Sunny is the recipient of the Innovation Award, the CE Analytic Innovation Award this year, or Leadership Award, I'm sorry. And for that very reason of being able to provide a place where, well, it's how you and I came to know each other, and just having the foresight to lead on creating that opening. And we'll we'll be talking about those awards a little bit more at CFX 2021, which happens to be the sponsor of the Forest of Whispering Speakers, which is our next segment. So I think we need a little bit more funky blues music here. So here we go. Okay, when I listen to this, if I think I'm in Secwepemcúl'ecw, I'm probably walking through some big spongy bog with giant skunk cabbage around me. That's what that music makes me think of. Every week, I've been doing the Forest of Whispering Speakers as an honoring to the arts and the knowledge that go through that, and through my favorite artist, Gord Downey of the Tragically Hip. This week I'm going to do things a little bit different. It's actually funny because last week we did Smash Mouth, and UMG Records got real mad at me, and even though I was trying to promote their product, they made me take it out. So I got spanked. And so anyways, this week I'm going to change things up a little bit because of what we're talking about and where we're going to go. We're going to talk about Comita. And I want to tie some things together. I want to connect some dots here around what I was talking about, unceded territory, and what that means, and then the connection to where we're going through Comita, right? So it's just sort of like where we've been. So people might or might not be aware. Let me change my... I want to change to my share screen, see if this works. And we go to this. Are you seeing the memorial?
I was.
Then
I
what
wasn't,
happened?
and the screen just went gray.
Oh, yeah.
There's it.
There we are. Okay. So, The memorial to Sir Wilfrid Laurier was written in 1910 from the chiefs of the Shuswap, Okanagan, Couteau, and Thompson tribes, and they were assisted by James Tate. And I'm going to put a link in to download the entire memorial for those who are interested. And if you have not read it, you should do that. You absolutely should do that, because this is an important piece of Canadian history and Secwepemc history. I'm just going to highlight a couple of aspects of this, and let's see. I'll come back to us, Sophie, but I'll put that link back up. And I'm going to read some of these things because it's kind of lengthy and we can't get through all of it. I could never ever cover it. This is it's a huge topic, but there's some important elements that have really resonated with me given what we've been talking about. And I'm just going to read some of these sections, and we can talk about it. But it was written to the Prime Minister of Canada at the time, in 1910. After the other whites came to this country in 1858, we differentiated them from the first whites as their manners were so different, and we applied the term real whites. So there were two waves of settlers that came, and the first ones, we could depend on their word and we trusted and respected them. They did not interfere with us nor attempt to break up our organizations, laws, or customs. They did not try to force their conception of things on us to our harm, nor did they stop us from catching fish, hunting, etc. They never tried to steal or appropriate our country, nor take our food or our life. They acknowledged our ownership of the country, and they treated our chiefs as men. They were the first to find us in this country from the other worlds. I'm adding that. We never asked them to come here, but nevertheless, we treated them kindly and hospitably and helped them all we could. They had made themselves, as it were, our guests. We treated them as such and then waited to see what they would do. And so the first arrivals proved trustworthy and worthy to be guests and welcome in the home of Secwepemcúl'ecw, on the Secwepemcúl'ecw ranches. Now this is in 1910. Just 52 years ago, the other whites came to this country. They found us just the same as the first whites had found us, only we had larger bands of horses, had some cattle, and in many places we had cultivated land. They found us happy, healthy, strong, and numerous. Each tribe was still living in its own house, or in other words, ranch, which was the colonial name for that. No one interfered with our rights or disputed our possessions of our houses or our ranches. We were friendly and helped these whites also, for we had learned from the first whites they had done us no harm, and only when some of them killed us, we revenged on them. Then we thought there are some bad ones among them, but surely on the whole they must be good. Besides, they are the Queen's people, and we had already heard great things about the Queen from the real whites. So they were welcomed. And it goes on further on that just this value that with us, when a person enters our house or becomes our guest, we must treat him hospitably as long as he shows no hostile intentions. And at the same time, we expect him to return the same equal treatment for what he receives. And so some of our chiefs said these people will wish to be partners with us in our country. This is really important. We must therefore be the same as brothers to them and live as one family. This is how Indigenous people welcomed settlers to this land. We will share equally in everything, half and half, in land, water, and timber. What is ours will be theirs, and what is theirs will be ours, and we will help each other to be great and good. But it didn't quite work out like that. And, there's a lot of description in the Laurier Memorial of what actually happened, and I really want people to read that. But, essentially, if I just bring this to a little bit of a close, what did they get? What did they get for welcoming these people in and trusting? Gradually, as the whites of this country became more and more powerful, and we less and less powerful, they little by little changed their policy towards us and commenced to put restrictions on us. Their government or chiefs have taken every advantage of our friendliness, weakness, and ignorance to impose on us in every way. They treat us as subjects without any agreement to that effect. They force their laws on us without our consent and irrespective of whether they are good for us or not. They say they have authority over us. They have broken down our old laws and customs. They laugh at our chiefs and brush them aside. In minor affairs amongst ourselves which do not affect them in the least and which we can easily settle better amongst ourselves, they drag into their courts. They enforce their own laws, one way for the rich man, one way for the poor white, and yet another for the Indian. They have knocked down all the posts of the Indian tribes. They say there are no lines. They have taken possession of the Indian country and claimed it as their own. They've never consulted us in any of these matters, nor made any agreement, nor signed any papers with us. That's what unceded means. It was never given away. They were welcomed. And that history, as a non-Indigenous person, I didn't know it. I didn't know it until I started really doing my own research. And so now I think this is changing, Sophie. I think your generation is becoming more aware, but most in mine, I don't know if I can say that, but I feel it, at least in the non-Indigenous side, didn't really fully understand the scope of what had happened. So, talk about the cumulative effects and the connection of things. It's so important to understand the history of a place and not just have one view of it. I mean, you have grown up kind of with an understanding of both sides. What's it like? What's it like to be Sophie and be Indigenous and live in a colonial world?
I definitely didn't. I would like to have more touch with my Indigenous culture. Just my family wasn't. They didn't teach that way, kind of, if that makes sense. But I've learned from my peers and other Indigenous friends more about it, and especially with Secwepemc last summer, we did the summer speaker series where we talked to you. We also talked to some knowledge keepers, a couple elders, and with BC Tomorrow, Dr. Bruce Fraser, we talked to him too, and just learning about all the different aspects over the summer really helped my understanding. But I don't know how to formulate this into words. Having both ways of knowing, especially over the last year, has really helped me become more grounded with who I am and what I can do to help change things. Because this memorial to Sir Wilfrid Laurier is in 1910. That's 110 years ago, and it's a little sad to think about because they were so hopeful in the memorial about how they could be great and good. That's one of the key messages I take away from it every time.
Yeah.
But we know that things did not go how the chiefs wanted. After the memorial, there was the residential schools, the 60s scoop, everything after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty sad because they were so hopeful in writing that to the Prime Minister at the time. So I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Well, it's a tough one, and I really put you on the spot, and I think you answered it well, and that is that there's an honoring of what has happened in the past and a need to acknowledge that, and then also I think hope that going forward with two knowledge sets, we can still be better. And I think I want to share this memorial with people because I think it's important. They wrote it down, and it serves such an important marker in time for us to understand. And I think it also gives us hope. It also gives us hope that, and we're going to talk about Cumulative Effects is one of the ways that we're maybe moving back in that direction. It's not about, as you say, it's not about one or the other. It's about both. That's what we need to do. We need to understand both. I will also note that in the file that I'm sharing with you that was put together, there is a full timeline. And, this was presented to Laurier in August of 1910. And then there was a federal election and he lost. And this file sort of got shuffled away. So,
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Anyways, it's important to know this, and I'm just going to keep on trying to shed light on our history, especially as I learn it better and sharing with others through this opportunity. You should be afraid because now it's rapid fire questions. Look at the fear in her eyes. It's like, you remember in The Grinch? Gaze into the fear.
Yeah.
And then the little girl says, I think you need a timeout. Kids these days, so desensitized. Okay, that's enough of my interpretations. You ready? Yep. 10 quick questions, easy answers, your first thought. There's nothing dangerous in here.
Okay.
All right. Sophie, favorite number?
7.
7. Favorite color?
Yellow.
That's a first. You're the first guest with that one. Second favorite color?
Blue.
Nice. Blue and yellow. Those go well together. Choose one. Snowboard, ski, or inner tube?
Ski.
Ski.
Yeah.
TRU or UBC?
TRU. Small
All right.
University with small classes.
Snoop, Snoopy, or Snoop Dogg?
Oh, Snoop. And Snoop if it's quick. Snoop Dogg if I'm trying to get him to come and see me.
And the pictures I've seen, Snoop is not a beagle, so he would never be a Snoopy anyway.
Yeah. He's a black lab.
Do you take naps?
Yeah, yesterday I took one, meant to be 15 minutes. It ended up being an hour.
Nice. Rejuvenation. Are physicists better than engineers?
Big time.
Yeah, engineers. I'm not going to say it. They're great.
I don't want any. Yep.
Yeah,
I don't want anyone coming at me in the comments.
We don't need hate mail. Don't worry about it. Okay. Time on the land or time at the movies?
Time on the land.
Yeah.
I can't sit still long enough.
One hope that you have for the future?
I'm not sure. For more Indigenous people to get involved in cumulative effects, that would probably be one.
That would be a good one. We would all benefit from that. Mm-hmm. I like it. An elder or perhaps two, or something, it's up to you. Who's had an impact on you? I'm sure there are many, but...
I would say, honestly, every summer speaker we talked to last year had an effect on me. We had Kia Amona, that is a knowledge keeper out in Sink, in near Barrier. She taught us a lot about the Secwepemc language or Secwepemc Sheen, and just learning from her, learning from you as well. We also had Counselor Jeanette Jules with Tecumloops teach us about making tobacco, so learning that. We had Rona Bowie. She lives out in Chase. We learned how to make smudge with her and take medicine off the land, and it was just everyone I talked to that summer. Really, I can't say enough good things about that.
That's awesome. It's, I've been working through a few different project opportunities for cumulative effects in Indigenous communities, and over and over and over again, I see the connection, the power of the connection of elders and youth. And you've felt it. One day you'll be an elder and you'll be sharing that knowledge back down, and it's really important that we keep that cycle going. So thanks for sharing. Let's talk about the sort of where we can go from understanding this past that perhaps hasn't worked out the way many hoped, but now we have an opportunity for transformation. And Secwepemc is a group that you're working with that's working on that, right? Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so Secwepemc is an organization that works with 7 Indian bands and 4 government ministries to do, and there's our website too, to come together on joint agreements and really to make sure we're on the correct path of recognition and reconciliation. And just because we just talked about the memorial to Sir Wilfrid Laurier, one of the lines that we remember when we're working is we'll help each other be great and good. Yeah. And just on this path to reconciliation, we have to remember that, and we have to remember to do the concept of walking on 2 legs, because it is how we're going to move forward and recognize each other and reconcile in the end.
Now, you mentioned Sunny Laborde is the director of Secwepemc. Tell us about that guy that's on my shirt.
So Scoopican is on your shirt. That is Porcupine. So we have a telling. Kenton is a way better storyteller than I am, but in the story of Scoopican, he ultimately brings together Chief Elk and Chief Swan, and we think of that as QS. We are Scoopicans, and then the chiefs are Chief Swan, and Chief Elk is BC, and Scoopican brings them together in the end to talk about how they can recognize each other and get along together and work together. So being Scoopican and Scoopican up on the back of your shirt, that's what Comita bases everything off of, is that story and learning from each other and bringing everyone together to work on one joint outcome.
Yeah, and that story really speaks to me about bringing 2 ways of knowing to the forefront of I think as Kenton shared it with me, like 2 sides sort of at odds. One had to humble themselves and reach to the other in order for the 2 to be able to go forward. And I feel like that's perhaps something that's missing sometimes, is our humility, and we're pushing to be right. I'm just scrolling through some of your peers over there on the page. I know all of these people, and they're awesome, and they're working really hard to find a pathway through for the Secwepemc Nation, or the signatory communities that are working through Comita and the British Columbia government, and in fact it's inspiring other governments, I would say, in other nations. So there's many of the staff. Sophie, I didn't see your picture there. What the heck?
I am under #Team Scoopican and then the intern program.
Oh, okay, let's go over there and let's look at that. There you are. There you are.
Yep, the shortest one in the bunch. And we're actually looking for more interns this summer. So the deadline is next Friday for applications. And it's a pretty easy application, so I would encourage anyone to apply.
So I got to know you and Jana. Jana's way over on the right end of the Secwepemcúl'ecw pretty well. We worked together, but what do interns do? Like, and if somebody's thinking, well, what if I want to be an intern? What would they expect that they would be doing?
So we this year are changing things up a little bit, and the interns are actually doing their own summer projects as well. But they were looking for 8 interns. So with this one, there's 4 main campfires that we work with. Secwepemc, which is like Adams Lakes, Pachine, and Little Shuswap. And then we have SSN, which is Kingston and Winnipeg, Sim in Barrier, and finally the Columbia River Basin, which is just Shuswap uh, Indian band down in Invermere. But we're looking to hire 8 interns, and then they would do projects. Both of them, or 2 interns per campfire, but they each get to do their own projects within those campfires and concentrate strictly within the area that they use. So I'm sure you know about cumulative effects for some of the interns, and then there's always communication uh, opportunities for other students, and there's definitely more, but it's a really, as an intern you get to work on the summer project, but you'd also get to be involved in the office environment, but also the recognition reconciliation work that QS is doing. um, it's not an intern it's not a typical internship where you're going out and getting coffees. Not to say that we don't do that, because we love our Starbucks at the office, but you but you definitely do get that's not just your job. You're a valued team member. It's a small team, so everyone helps each other out, and you're not you're not alone in the internship, that's for sure. So
And
working with everyone, you definitely can.
you get paid too.
Yes, that too. Yes.
So, like, that's a cool thing is you get this amazing opportunity. You get to hang out with lots of other people, build new relationships, talk about cool stuff like cumulative effects or education curriculum or bringing traditional knowledge to the fore, finding pathways in governance. So many cool things. You're getting paid. It's a good summer job, and I mean, just it's a fabulous program. Comita.ca. People should check that out. And I think you're Comita's all over social media, on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm following them there. Um,
Yeah, they're everywhere for sure.
so go to comita.ca to get your application if you're interested in working there. And this program is going to continue, right? So, like, even if you're not necessarily in a position to do it this year, hopefully it'll be there next year as well.
Yeah, we definitely want to build more capacity within the office. So having more and more people join the team is what we're looking for. And the internship is just a great opportunity to get involved in it. And I wouldn't say thrown in the deep end, but at this point, you're walking down the stairs to the deep end. So it's definitely it's a hard learning curve, but it's really rewarding in the end for sure.
Nice, nice. And I know, like, from my own experiences, like that can be maybe intimidating, and yet when you get those opportunities to really learn, and you move ahead and you build so much confidence, it's such a great thing. I promised people this morning in my note leading up to our show. Well, I told people how inspired I get about youth, and I promised people you would inspire them, and I know that has happened. Like, honestly, like, Sophie, you personify all of the folks over at Comita so well. It's really great for somebody like me who's older to see a few things. One, confidence. Another, stepping up. Another, a sort of a gentle attitude towards things, and positive and bright outlook, finding solutions, not focusing on problems and stuff. And you are an inspiration to me and many young people. Lots of people are going to see this video, and really grateful to you, Cú'ecw, for sharing your time with us and with everybody else who's going to see this and be inspired by you.
Thank you for having me on, Barry. It's been really rewarding to be on here too, and just getting to share my story and hope to inspire others. That's for sure.
Cool. Both Sophie and I are on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You can connect with us on social media. We're also starting a club on Clubhouse for CFX. And so I hope to have Sophie join us on stage there, and perhaps we can bring the whole crew from Comita onto that discussion and share, because there we are worldwide and we can really extend our reach. So that's exciting. I want to say a special thank you to Sarika, our assistant producer, for helping us pull off this show. I also want to say, if you haven't done this already, smash that subscribe button. Come on, do it, and share this show with your friends, because this is how the world works. We are connected, but we need to share. And so if we want to build this movement, let's celebrate each other's successes, share these things, share it out to your friends, get involved in the conversation. Thanks so much, Sophie. Cooks Checham.
Thank you. Good session.
See everybody next week.